Hi, welcome to Breaking Free Fridays. This is Kara, and it's great to have you here. I wanted to share today about the keys to releasing control. I felt really guided about this because this is all connected to things related to surrender, letting go, and also just increasing our faith and really embracing the goodness that is in life, even though we might see a lot of things that feel the opposite of that around us. And so I thought this one was really worth talking about. It's definitely something that I have really worked through and continue to do so in my own journey, and have seen with so many other people. So I invite you to just tune in and really, be open to what comes up as you listen, and invite some new awarenesses to come forward for you, and new breakthroughs. So this is such an important part of our empowerment journeys and just our inner work in general. It's funny because the need to control, it's certainly an irony. It's one of those things that surfaces in an effort to manage our fear. It's like this illusion, and yet our mind tricks us into thinking that we can feel safer, that things are feeling smoother, that life is easier when we're controlling things, and it's an illusion. The reality is we don't have control over a lot. The one thing that we have immense control over is our inner world. But everything else, the external world, other people, we don't have control over that. Influence, yes. Positive effect, yes. Opportunity, of course. But we don't have control over other people's actions, of their reactions, of their feelings. We don't have control over other people's perceptions. So it's an invitation in so many cases to go within and really find those deep roots to our own empowerment, and where that really lies, which is not in trying to control. I'll give a couple of examples, because control can show up in a lot of different ways. It can show up in our work environments. Think about if you've ever had a boss that's particularly micromanaging in their approach. That's a form of control. Or even in your relationships, with your kids, for example. Maybe you have certain expectations of how they should be keeping their room, and maybe they are keeping stuff all on the floor and not tidying up, and yet what is that about? Sometimes people might think, well, that's a respect issue, but is it? I mean, some of this inner work is such an opportunity to really question things with curiosity. Really give yourself an opportunity to open up to different possibilities of what things could really mean, what's true, what's not, where there's an opportunity for breakthrough, and really letting go and standing in your own empowerment. So those are some other things to keep in mind with that. Another example, there's a couple that I'll share this story. The wife actually was still working, and the husband had retired. And so he was trying to help more around the house, which was a really welcome idea in theory, because he had time, and it was something he could do as an act of service, a show of love. And the wife was working still, and so it would be helpful for her. But he wasn't doing the household chores the right way. And I put that in quotes, right? Because in the case of the wife, she had a particular way that she thought it should be done, and imagined that everyone else would think that as well, but he didn't. And so instead of being able to communicate through that and navigate through that in a really positive way, what ultimately ended up happening in this particular example is the husband gave up and just decided, not to bother trying anymore, because he couldn't win, was kind of the thought. And that becomes super disempowering for a relationship overall, but also for both people. So, and it's an example where, we end up basically losing connection, isolating more, feeling more alone. Another thing that, that desire for control can do is it can bring us into a place of exhaustion, especially, mental exhaustion, but just in general affecting our energy overall. And that's not a great place to be. And it also just keeps us in kind of this hyper vigilant place. So it keeps us from being connected to the present moment, and really allowing for the beauty and the magic of miracles to come forward. Because when we get into that pattern of control, we're often so busy with all of the what ifs and planning this and trying to make everything run perfectly without surprise or anything like that. And in doing that, we occupy our mind so much that it keeps us out of touch with that intuitive side, with that divine alignment, with that peace that welcomes in, divine curriculum, which I for one believe that we all have that peace. So that's important to keep in mind. And one of the other things that happens with control, when you think about how it's a way of managing fears, one of the things to remember about this is that those fears can show up in different ways, and we can cope from a control standpoint in different ways, in different circumstances, in different relational settings, in different connections, depending on what the fear is. So, is it a fear of failure? Is it a fear of not being loved? Is it a fear of rejection? There can be so many different ways that shows up, and it's an invitation for us to really come into center more and allow ourselves to let go, and to release. And sometimes that just literally can feel really terrifying. It can feel really challenging to do that. So there are a few keys that I want to share that I think are very powerful, that can make a big difference as you try to shift from a place of really trying to control things versus coming from a place of ease and flow. Imagine the idea of trying to go upriver and how challenging that is versus being in the flow of the river. It's like that balance between the divine masculine and the divine feminine, where you have that balance of structure and discipline with creativity, connection and flow. So this is an empowerment shift in releasing some of the control. And the first step is to really acknowledge and feel the fear. So recognize, what's going on. And I always, before you go into any, discovery steps, I always encourage people to really get centered and grounded in their body first, because it really helps bring clarity in a deeper way, and in an easier way. So I invite you to take some deep breaths first, and just really allow yourself to come into connection with your body. Hold your hand over your heart, one over your belly, and just, consciously, deeply breathe, really focusing on your rib cage expanding. Oftentimes we get into that place of shallow breathing that's like, it's just automatic, but we don't even realize, and we're not fully breathing in and taking in life. So I invite you to do that first, and actually frequently, all day long is great, as often as you can. But getting back to the steps for this empowerment shift. So the first one, acknowledging and feeling the fear. So what am I fearing? What am I afraid of? What is this about? What is behind the control? What, examine where you're having a pattern of control that you want to break free of. Take that and really look at, what am I trying to prevent? What am I afraid of? What is the worst thing that would happen if this doesn't go the way I plan, or if this isn't the way I expected? And allow yourself, with just curiosity, to really let what comes up surface. No judgment, just curiosity about what's behind it. And when you get that answer, and you can do this just in internal dialogue or even journaling, allow yourself to just feel that for a moment and just realize, like, this is a valid feeling. There's a fear here, and it's okay that it's here. And recognize and let your inner child know, like, I've got you, I'm here, and we're okay. And just start building that relationship with your own safety within is really, really powerful. And then, the second step, just reflecting on your own circle of control. So really being aware of what you have control over, and reminding yourself that you don't have control over other people's feelings. You don't have control over their actions. You don't have control over the outcomes. So it's really about sinking back into your own internal power of how you show up, of how you're responding, of how your nervous system is actually flowing. Are you in a state of calm and reset? Are you able to be in that present moment? And really, sitting with that and giving yourself that opportunity to let go of the outcome. And, an example here, let's say, one of my kids is a teenager, so this is a perfect time, because this is an area where kids are testing and doing things more independently, pushing boundaries, things like that. And I could choose to look at some of my son's choices as a reflection of, oh my gosh, am I a bad mom? Or I can see, okay, I am doing this, and this in a conscious parenting way. I love my children so much, and I'm showing up for them. I'm guiding them. And if he makes a choice that maybe I'm not crazy about, that's part of him finding himself. Like, that's a beauty of kids becoming healthy and whole adults too. So there's an example just to kind of see that juxtaposition on, where you have control and where you don't. And then the third thing is choosing from a place of presence. So, getting even more present, really learning how to regulate your nervous system and being in that state of ease and flow and presence, so that you're, managing your emotions, managing your mindset. And from that place, asking yourself, given what I can and can't control, what is the next most powerful and aligned choice or step that I can take? And really accepting in the clarity that comes and the priority that comes from that, because in that centered place, things are a lot more clear. So anyway, I hope you find this helpful. I'd love to hear your thoughts and where you might be struggling with patterns of control, and how your experience has been in letting go and surrendering, allowing more of that flow to come into your life, where just more of the magic, the beauty, the mystery can come alive. And if you're enjoying these, please share with loved ones, subscribe, send a like. Here is to your next level of empowerment and breaking free. And I hope you have a great week. Bye for now.